It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Whoa! We're streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Where I just gave people motion sickness because I decided to move the camera around like a 5-year-old who's never had control over a camera before. That's the kind of day it is today. We got a lot going on. We'll keep our eyes peeled for any NBA news. The Knicks hired Mike Brown earlier, which is fine. He's a solid NBA coach. Same level as the guy that they fired. But sometimes you need a new voice. Maybe he'll get more out of the same exact players, plus like 2 other dudes, including Jordan Clarkson, who's the Madison Square Garden crowd is going to love and then hate and then love and then hate, and it is going to be funny. Beyond that, we got some WNBA stuff coming up. I'm hoping we're going to be able to catch Sonia Citron. We're on a bit of a scheduling kerfuffle there. We'll see if it can work out with the Mystics team flight. They're on their way to Minneapolis. We're hoping to catch Sony when they land. So that will be in the 6 o'clock hour. We will be talking Mystics for sure in the 6 o'clock hour because Kendra Andrews from ESPN is going to join us because she was a part of the reporting that Aaliyah Edwards might be on the trade block. So we'll get Kendra on at 6:30. Other than that today, the U.S. Women's National Team is across the street facing Canada, so I might hit on that a little bit. And then the other big local story that we're going to talk about is the fact that the Commanders are now teasing new uniforms. And then there's more RFK stuff. Kevin Sheehan talked to Mayor Bowser. You might have heard some or all of that interview. We're going to play some clips for those of you that haven't, and we will discuss what Mayor Bowser had to say. But as Ben's with us, first of all, Ben, check in with you. Ben in for Anthony, who has now made his way to Barcelona, Paris. Very successful for our guy, Antoine. I have to see if he's now going by Antonio now that he's in Spain. He was Antoine while he was in France. He'll just be Anthony when he gets back here. This is now your 3rd day on the show. How are we feeling about our experience on the Hoffman Show?
Feeling great. Feeling energized today. Getting through the week. I know obviously you don't have the show on Friday. I will be here on Friday, but this week has kind of flown by for me because I've been here all day, every day, pretty much.
Yeah, so you're doing the B. Mitch and Finley Hoffman Show double, a rare double. We've had folks stay on this side of the building for a double before, but I don't know how often we've had the B. Mitch and Finley Hoffman Show double.
You're going to love what I'm doing tomorrow.
You're doing a triple header tomorrow. So what do you got tomorrow?
So tomorrow I got the B. Mitch and Finley Show. I'll be taking your calls over there, replacing Jeff Walker for the day. Then I'll be over here.
You'll be sitting in Jeff Walker. No one replaces Jeff Walker. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that no one replaces Jeff Walker.
That is true. Nobody can be like Jeff Walker. There is only one of him.
One of a kind.
Then I'll be over here with you, of course. So that'll be a fun time as always. And then after that, have about an hour break. And then I got Mystics production right here in the chair I'm sitting in.
Nice. So at least you get a little break. Maybe we can get you some food from down one of the fine restaurants in this area, or maybe you'll bring. That's really between you and you. But yeah, you get Mystics tomorrow night in Minnesota, which they're on their way to now. And hopefully they'll have a quick flight, and that means we'll get to talk to Sonia Citron. But sometimes to start the show, Ben, before we get into any real sports talking, it's good to just kind of level set with the audience where we are on a given day. And today's going to be one of those days where I'm just gonna level set with the audience because I did not drive in today. I biked in today, and it was a bit of an adventurous bike ride. Coming through the district, we'll pick things up. The start of the ride was fairly smooth, Ben, but as I was rolling through Shaw area, I had a guy who and look, it's parking, bike lane, sidewalk. And people need to park, and if they live, especially if they live there, they're unloading stuff out of their cars. That's fine. I just, as someone who bikes frequently, would appreciate if people were a little more cognizant of the fact that you are having to go through a bike lane. And I see everything that happened to me today. Luckily, I have been biking in the city long enough, and I'm a defensive enough biker, if you will, defensive driving taken to a bicycle, that I was like, all right, I'm my head's always on a swivel. Put it that way, right? So I see this guy. He's not really paying attention. He's getting stuff out of his car. And sure enough, takes a water out, turns, starts walking. And I'm like, buddy, didn't even look. And so I'm kind of giving him the, yo! as I approach, and he's able to stop and allow me to slowly go around him. But had I put my head down, or had I not given him the old EO, I would have just ran his ass over, which would have hurt both of us because I was on a bike.
Have you seen the guy? This is a while back, honestly, but I used to get Instagram reels of this guy that would ride his bike around New York, and anytime a car or somebody blocked the bike lanes, he would yell very explicit things at them. And he became very famous. The comments hated him because he was kind of a jerk in the way he would yell at people. And obviously, as a biker, you have the right to be a little bit upset with people blocking the lane that's reserved for you so you don't get killed by a car. But this guy would definitely take it way too far, and it made him a very hateable person.
Yeah, you don't need to be the world's worst person about it, but like I would appreciate it if the non-bikers of DC paid a little bit more attention. So there's one, right? Like 2 blocks later, I'm crossing an intersection, and there's a girl who's running perpendicular. So she, in order to run across towards me, is going against, like, she's got a little red hand being like, hey, don't walk there. But she sees, like, hey, there's no real cars coming. There's just this guy on a bike. And so she decides to run, and she slows down because she doesn't want to run into me, which I appreciated. But she didn't factor in the fact that if she slowed down, that a car that was way off in the distance would be coming at her. And so I hear honk, honk. No, I'm not about to tell you that a lady got hit by a car. I'll take the suspense out of that story. But like I hear a honk honk and the girl go, ah! As I go by on the bike. And I'm just like, is today idiot day in the district? So that's 2.
I feel like anytime you're traveling, like I notice I'll have experiences like this when I'm driving somewhere that's a good distance away where everything will go wrong on that drive. And it's usually everyone else around me can't drive. Or you just run into the weather is terrible, or there'll be a ton of traffic, and you just think to yourself, I'm never going to get to where I'm going
it's
right
just
now.
Murphy's. Well, I'm at that point. My wife is always nervous about me biking, as you hear people get hit and all that kind of stuff, and so I'm just like, I can't wind up having to call Rachel being like, hey, something bad happened, and so a couple blocks later, I'm still like not even out of Shaw, and I'm looking like, do I cut across traffic? And I'm like, I should know better. And for some reason, I just didn't stop. Like, I didn't just stop and be patient. I was like, oh, I think I can. Nope, there are cars coming. And as I went to stop, I was fine. But it was apparently the way I stopped and stopped my feet. My chain popped off my bike. So that sucked. Had to put that back on. Hands, despite lots of washing, still stupid greasy. There you can't really see it, I guess. A little bit. You got some grease. Camera's doing a good job of hiding it if you're watching on YouTube. And then, so that I pull up on the sidewalk, put the chain back on. So there's 3 quasi incidents. 4, as I'm crossing bound by Capital One Arena, I see a dude on a bike who stopped kind of in the middle of the road, puking his brains out. Hope he was all right. Don't know what was going on there. That didn't look like a good situation. Meanwhile, on the other side of the street, there's some dude yelling about something at the bus stop, and I'm just like, please, light turn. Get me out of here. And then I finally get across the mall, get across over onto this side of town, and there's this one, let's see, what would it be on? I guess it's on 4th. There's like a turn right underneath one of the underpasses. And for some reason, cars always just don't really look. And sure enough, I see this car, and I'm like, oh, you're going to make this right turn and cut me off. So I like come to a stop. And then, like, as the car is basically in my way, he either sees a pedestrian that's about to cross, or both, stops. And then I'm just like, great. So now you've cut us both off and are in the way, but thanks for not hitting us. Got to go around that. And then from there, I was able to get here safely.
Well, I'm glad you made it here. It seems like it was a struggle, maybe almost a miracle that you're here, but here we are doing the show.
Fingers crossed for an easy ride home, although somehow this has incited complaints. Kevin's in Virginia. Kevin, Ben, it looks like I've got I can't pull people up again today. I'll see if I can fit that out. All right, Kevin, what's your gripe with me, apparently?
No disrespect, but bikers, they break the rules all the time. And I'm not talking about the bike lane. They're in the middle of the road. They run past red lights. They go through stop signs like the law doesn't apply to them. And and they never get cited for it. And as a driver in the car, if I somehow hit you when you're running through a red light, it's all on me. And it's really a problem from a driver's standpoint. And I try to respect bikers. I understand that. I never go in the bike lane. I never block the bike lane. I'm talking about driving down the road. You've got people on bicycles that are running red lights and not looking, as if we can't, we're supposed to respect that. And it's a pet peeve of mine. I just had to say that when I heard you talking.
Look, Kevin.
It goes both ways.
No, it does. It does. And I will say, as someone who is I feel like, not that I am the grand poobah of all things getting around the district, but I am someone who walks quite a bit, drives quite a bit, and bikes quite a bit. I am not a solo of any of those things. And when I see bikers on kamikaze missions while I'm driving, I'm like, why? What are you doing? Like, yes, there are times if I can clearly see that there is no one coming at a stop sign, or if the car is coming to a stop, it is easier, or it is harder to stop a bike and get it going again than the time it will take for me to just run through a stop sign. But if you were there first and are ready to go and I'm approaching the stop sign, then I'm going to stop. I think there is more gray areas on bikes that in some ways makes the bike safer if they're more aggressive. But being an idiot and getting in cars' ways and all the other crazy stuff a lot of the bikers do around the city. And of course, the worst is in the middle of it all, like the Vespa situation, who can't decide, are you a bike or are you a car? That we got to get situated. So that's my transportation monologue for the morning. Typically, I save those for Ben once a quarter, because otherwise we start infringing on Russell's territory. He is, of course, the czar of traffic radio. If you want sports and traffic, you turn it into the Chris Russell Show.
And crime.
Oh, man, some of his crime.
I think today's been a big crime week for him.
Oh.
From what I've seen. And now he got the combination with Malik Beasley. He's got crime and sport. So this is the best of both worlds for the Rooster.
If at some point Malik Beasley was stuck in traffic, that is the ultimate Chris Russell story.
I'm sure it's happened.
The gambling's ruining everything. We should talk about that maybe tomorrow. What a wild story that is. All right. Anyway, that's where I'm at today. Happy to be here. Would like for all of you to behave later this afternoon as I try to return to my house safely. Up next, we'll talk about sports on the Hoffman Show. All right. Also on the show today, a couple of filmmakers. Just so happens that they both were available to talk about their projects today. Glenn Kino, who produced an outstanding basketball documentary, is going to join us at 5:30. And then up next, Chris Eyre, new docuseries on the History Channel about Jim Thorpe, co-produced by LeBron James. Very, very cool cool project. Chris Eyre, a documentary filmmaker who's an award winner, is going to join us coming up in a few minutes. This actually, tell you what though, we might bump that to 4:45 because I think we might get some calls on this. This is a great topic. Ben, you get credit for the topic because you did it on Locked On Wizards, and I think this is really fun. Which Washington Wizard is most likely, as we sit here and see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting the super max and a bunch of other max players around, which Washington Wizard is most likely to be a future super max player? I think it's really fun. I've got two guys that come to mind. I think it's worth probably on the front end here saying, how do you qualify for the Supermax? Because that also will help shape this. So the Supermax is this very specific thing that the NBA implemented a couple years ago that says to qualify for a Supermax, the player typically needs to have 7 or 8 years of NBA experience on the team that drafted them. So you can't have ever been traded. This is why it was such a big deal when Luka got traded, amongst all the other reasons. But like he lost so much money by being traded because he was no longer eligible for the Supermax. And then this is kind of the big thing. They need to meet certain performance thresholds, such as being named to an All-NBA in the previous season or 2 of the 3 preceding seasons. So you make All-NBA, you're like in the year you're up for the extension, you're eligible. Or if you made it in 2 of the preceding 3 years, so say you got hurt and you miss All-NBA or your performance dipped, but you'd already qualified because the 2 years prior you made it, then you're good. Or you can be named Defensive Player of the Year, or being named in the previous season or 2 of the preceding 3, or being named MVP in any of the preceding 3 seasons. So you need to be an MVP, time right an All-NBA team, or Defensive Player of the Year. So if those are the criteria, Ben, who do you think is the most likely Washington Wizard to be Supermax eligible?
To start things off, I think in DC specifically here, there's a lot of personal opinions about the Supermax contract that have been swayed because of what has happened with people who got Supermax contracts here in our nation's capital. Wall and Beal, of course, terrible endings. Have to put those feelings to the side because this team needs a superstar player. If you have somebody that's all NBA worthy or MVP worthy, God forbid, on this Wizards team, you have to be thrilled about that. So just get that out of the way. For me, the former number 2 overall pick, Alex Sarr, is who I'd go with. One, because of the size and what he's able to do at his size. He's a guy that has good speed, quick with the basketball, and has stretched his game to play outside the perimeter well. Now, he was inefficient offensively in his rookie year, especially around the rim. I think if you're over 7 foot, to shoot under 40% from the field is a little bit concerning. With that being said, I do think he improves a lot like he did in the second half of the season. And because he plays so well on the defensive side of the basketball, protecting the rim, he's a guy that if he polishes his offensive game and also gets a little bit better as a rebounder, I think that's somewhere he has to improve as well. I could see him being a top-of-the-line stretch 4 in the NBA and being an all-NBA type of player.
I think Sarr's interesting on 2 fronts. The absolute best version of Alex Sarr takes on all of like the freaky athleticism and length that he's got and turns himself into a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And if so he were, let's say it's, because remember, the reason, so there is actually another version of the Supermax that's for younger players. Like I said, you have to be in year 7 or 8. If you hit some of these other thresholds earlier, it's just not as big a percentage of the cap. So that's ultimately what we're talking about here. Like the big Supermax is 35% of the cap. in the given year that you sign it, with max raises year over year moving forward, which I believe are 8%. So yeah, it gets real nerdy real fast, but that's what we're talking about here, right? But let's say in the year that he's extension eligible, the Wizards are really good. So we're like 4 years down the line. He's awesome. They're awesome defensively. He's the anchor of a Oklahoma City-esque type of run defensively. And maybe he doesn't ever polish offensively enough to make a third team even All-NBA, but he's the defensive player of the year. Is that totally off the table? No. I also find it hard to believe that if you're defensive player of the year, you wouldn't somehow squeak onto an All-NBA team. That feels like a weird needle to thread, but I guess it's possible.
I have a question, and he might have been on an All-NBA team, but this is maybe the only player I can think of in my head that might actually fit that threshold. Was Joakim Noah an All-NBA player of the year? He won Defensive Player of the Year. I guess we have to look that up.
I can look that up real quick.
But he was so bad offensively, I feel like it might be possible that he wasn't. I could be completely wrong.
I feel like he probably would have been
at least a third team, right?
Yeah, I think, let's see, Defensive Player of the Year.
In 2014.
Yeah, he was All-NBA first team that year.
He was first team.
Yeah, and he finished fourth in MVP voting that year.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Finished fourth in MVP voting, averaging 12 points and 11 rebounds. But he had 5 assists, over a steal, block and a half. They were awesome. Yeah, he played 80 games.
It's kind of overshadowed that Nene actually cooked in that series for the most part. And even though he was suspended for a game, I think he really held his own against Noah and scored the ball really effectively in that series. But it's irrelevant. That happened 10 years ago. It doesn't matter anymore.
Long time ago. So, but even if he's in contention for DPOY, like, is he probably a third team guy, if not better? Yeah, that's possible. That's not my answer though. I think Trey Johnson has a chance to be a stud, dude. Like, I just, something about that kid, the way he's wired, the way he shoots it, the way he works, the way he's open to feedback, how coachable he is. If the stuff that needs to get better for him can get better, I think he's the answer. And so, like, is Bilal going to develop into a really good player? I think so. I think he showed last year a huge step from year 1 to year 2. And I'm excited to see what the year 1 to year 2 step is for Bub this year. Will Dawkins, the way his eyes lit up in the postseason press conference when talking about Keyshawn George, when he's like, man, wait till you guys see what Keyshawn's already done, right, in a couple of months. And maybe I guess it was a pre-draft. I don't remember when it was. Maybe it was when he was on with the Junkies pre-draft. But sometime recently, where there had been a little bit of time since the end of the season, he's like, man, wait till you guys see what Keyshawn George has already done this offseason. So I'm excited to see what those guys can be. But none of them, because of the shooting prowess and the scoring ability, have the potential offensively as Trey Johnson. And for that reason, I think my answer is Trey, a guy who last year at 18 years old led the SEC, one of the best conferences in terms of depth and quality we've seen in recent, like, this new version of college basketball. He led the league in scoring. I think I'd probably bet on that guy. That's my answer.
I think it's a good pick as well. And with the way college basketball stacks up, and I think you just made that point. You hit it on the head right there. That's an 18-year-old kid that's essentially dominating, scoring the basketball against dudes who are 23. So it leaves me no doubt that he's going to be able to score effectively here at the next level, because it's genuinely hard to be a really good college basketball player at 18, 19 years old now.
Especially when you're your own point guard and you seem to not get along on the court. You can't get the ball.
Yeah, he was carrying the team for the most part, which is the craziest thing. And I know there was some concerns about him defensively taking off plays, but maybe because he had to carry the team so damn much offensively that it's tough to be able to go a full 40 minutes on both sides of the ball at that point. I think he's not going to have that issue in the NBA.
301-230-0980. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. Which Washington Wizard do you think is most likely to eventually be Supermax eligible? Or is the only chance someone who's not on the team yet? 301-230-0980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. Now also live on iHeartRadio and TuneIn. 301-230-0980 is the phone number. You can also hit us in the YouTube chat at the team 980. Got some comments in there on our topic du jour. Wizards-wise, at least, we'll get to some Commanders name news, uniform news, as well as stadium news coming up at 5 o'clock today. Chris Eyre, award-winning documentary maker, going to join us at 4:45. But also, just want to let folks know, I said this at the end of the last segment, easier to find now. Not only are we on the free Odyssey app, not only are we on YouTube, not only on the radio, on AM today. I think we're back on AM yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever that was. Whoopsie daisies. The whole got knocked out by an electrical storm. I mean, in a way, it's kind of a cool story. It's like, yeah, lightning hit our radio tower. In a way, it's not a cool story because you guys couldn't listen to us. But if you ever, for some reason, can't get us on the radio, all the places. And now, even more, iHeartRadio, tune in. Our podcast, and anywhere you can get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So really, frankly, Ben, what I'm telling people is there's no excuse not to listen to every second of this radio show. Like, what better could you possibly have to do? Or do things that you got to do, but also listen to us. Ignore your children. Just kidding. Don't ignore your kids. Definitely don't ignore your kids. See, Ben, you're supposed to laugh. I don't know if Anthony told you. Part of the job of producing it is laughing at the jokes.
Oh, maybe I thought there maybe be like a laugh sounder on here in your hotkey bed.
No.
I guess
no. Anthony actually laughs at my jokes. He is the hotkey sounder. So we'll have to.
Oh wait, I just laughed.
There you go. See, I just had to make a better joke. All right. 301-230-0980. Which Washington Wizard is most likely to be a future Supermax player? And again, you got to be MVP kind of in the discussion. If you win it, you're eligible. If you are first, second, or third team All-NBA, or you win Defensive Player of the Year, certain, whether you win it in the year you're extension eligible or 2 of the 3 years prior, then you get the Supermax. I will also say this with all due respect to all of the players. Unless you're going to be like LeBron James or Stephen Curry and you're so good it doesn't matter, it almost doesn't matter who else is on your team, then you kind of hope if you're a fan and you're just interested in winning that nobody is the answer. Like you want them to miss it just by that much. Like what you'd really want is a player, like you want Trey Johnson in 2 years before he's eligible to be like first team All-NBA or second team All-NBA, and he's awesome. And then the next year, for whatever reason, like he doesn't actually get that much worse, but like someone else has an incredible season and like he misses it. And so he misses it by that much. So you have an awesome player like who's that good without having to pay them the Supermax because then you're in a better cap situation. And like this is the stupidity of the Supermax contract. It hurts teams.
It's awful.
You're negotiating against yourself. I'm all for the players getting the money. I do not begrudge them. But like if you get it, it makes team building harder. Just count the extra cash that the players get, not against the cap. Make it automatic. There's no negotiation. If your team, your incumbent team, signs you to a max contract and you've qualified for Supermax, you get the Supermax. And if the NBA player or if the NBA owners want to pool like an extra bit of money together where it's not all on one incumbent owner, like they can figure out how to separate their money. But if you are lucky enough to have a player that good, you should not be punished by having to feel like you have to pay them more, even though you're negotiating against nobody, or you have to insult them and be like, sorry, we're not giving you that. But like that's the situation that teams get put in. It is one of the sillier CBA rules, I think, in all of sports.
When Beal was in the midst of his career best season where he led the NBA in scoring, all of the comments, all of the hubbub about Bradley Beal's, the NBA better give him the respects he deserves. Wizards fans were begging the NBA to include him in the All-NBA third team list or whatever list they put him on at that point. And I was the only one back then saying, no, do you guys not understand what you are doing? You are going to push this narrative, and he's going to get on the All-NBA third team, and this franchise will be set back forever because of this decision. I knew from the start that Beal was not a player that deserved the contract he did, yet alone a no-trade clause. Let's never do that again, please.
Well,
no more trade clauses,
There's a
ever.
reason that nobody has no trade clauses, and that was clearly a mistake by the front office at the time.
There's one
they
outlier
just messed it up.
on the no-trade clause list. There is one outlier in that list.
Yeah, even Steph doesn't have one.
Exactly.
Like, LeBron has one. That's basically it. And I don't know. I'm all for, I wish there were more no trade clauses. I think the fact that dudes can just be up and be like, hey, by the way, you're moving to Portland tomorrow. Like, that's crazy. These are people with families who sign contracts. But, like, from a team building standpoint, if I'm on the front office side, I'm literally never giving one. Like, sorry, no. And especially on a Supermax, because it's like, what are you going to do? Not sign it? Like, it's very, very silly. And the front office at the time made an enormous mistake, obviously, with that, which is why they're no longer here and they hire new people.
Yeah.
So with that said, in a way, this is a very silly discussion because in a way, you hope you don't. But also, like, what you really hope is that, like, you have a perennial first-team All-NBA. Like, the Oklahoma City Thunder have no problem with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander getting the Supermax because he's scored 30 a game. I don't think people realize this unless you're listening to the show over the last month. Then I've told you. Ben, pop quiz. How many straight years has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 30 points a game?
1.
Try 3.
It's 3 years in a row.
He scored 30 a game 3 years in a row. I think we've actually, like, he won the MVP this year, so it's hard to be like, that guy's underrated. I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, despite the fact that he just won MVP, Finals MVP, and is an NBA champion, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is actually underrated.
I had no idea it was 30 for the past 3. I knew he was upper 20s at least.
Yeah, I didn't either until I looked it up a couple of weeks ago. He has averaged 30 a game in 3 straight seasons. That is insane territory.
Yeah, he had one of the more impressive scoring seasons in recent memory. Before leading into the NBA Finals, he had scored more points than anybody in a single season since 1993 with Michael Jordan. So that tells you what kind of company he's surrounded by now.
Yeah, when you talk about, like, average and then not missing games, the total accumulation plus playoffs, like, yeah, he's one of the most consistent, reliable, prolific players. He's actually, despite the fact that he doesn't shoot a ton of threes, like, he's actually super efficient as well because of how well he drives it. And obviously, I think unlike Brunson, where he's, like, hunting for fouls, like, Shai gets fouled.
Can I offer you a question here that's actually, I've been thinking about this for a while.
Sure.
From a Wizard fan standpoint or just the Wizards organization here.
Fire
so
away.
We're having this conversation about Supermax players and how you almost kind of hope that they slightly miss the threshold so you can avoid this kind of situation, but also at the same time, you hope that you have an all-NBA caliber player here in D.C. at some point sooner rather than later. For next year, if somehow all of these guys, not saying this is likely at all, but if all these guys take a huge jump in year number 2 and then year number 3 of Bilal, if they get to the point where they're almost playing just below 500 level basketball, as a fan, would you be concerned that you're just kind of reaching a point where you're going to be mediocre and then you're losing your draft pick, or are you stoked for the development?
I think you're stoked for the development. My guess would be that the organization would continue to find ways to play like the guys even farther down, right? Like the Kobe Joneses, right? Mm-hmm. Like they would take those players, like develop AJ Johnson more by giving him more minutes. And like you have even a next wave of young guys that you think are going to be role players for you in the future. And they're playing more minutes. You're kind of, and by the way, like, does it sound kind of cheap in a way? Does it sound a little skeezy, a little tankish? Yeah, of course. But if you look at all the injuries that are happening to Tyrese Halliburton and Dame Lillard and, Jason Tatum, like Jason Tatum's not old, but like think how many minutes Jason Tatum accumulated as playing competitive basketball because his teams were good pretty instantly. They had Kyrie, like all that kind of stuff. Think of how many heavy minutes those guys played when they were young.
I feel that's what makes what LeBron has done his entire career.
It's
because
stupid.
He has played I don't know. You'd have to do the math in terms of games played, but he's almost played an extra couple seasons of just playoff games.
Oh, he has played a couple extra seasons.
It's like 3 or 4 years, isn't it? At least.
Yeah, no doubt. If
So
you
it's
think about,
nuts.
like, he's played probably 20 playoff games, and I mean, in that run where he went to 8 straight finals, that's probably like an extra 20 games a year. That's like 2 extra seasons. And so if you want to make the argument like you're load managing a 20-year-old, yeah, I don't want him to snap his Achilles when he's 26. And so if you want to make that argument, I think for this year, because of the pick protection, like I believe Will Dawkins when he says, hey, if our guys are so good that our pick goes to the Knicks, like we'll deal with that. But I think if you're kind of on the line, then you'll probably just be like, we're going to make sure that our guys are playing, our good players are playing 25 minutes a night. We'll throw out some lineups that have a couple extra young guys in it. Maybe we take the Chris Middletons and the Marcus Smarts and the CJ McCollums out even more. Maybe we flip those guys when we would have otherwise held on. Like, they'll find ways, I would guess, to make sure that they keep that pick.
I don't think they'll have this problem either.
And to
put
be
it
clear,
honestly.
I also think that we are a year away from having this problem. And at that point, hopefully, you have AJ DeBonsa and you've gotten the number 1 pick in next year's draft. Whether you win the lottery from 7 or win the lottery from 1, I don't really care about that. Just get lucky, win the lottery.
You know that's a big ask.
Of course. But that's kind of where I see it, is like they'll find a way to keep the pick. And then you hope that that's a problem that you're dealing with 2 years from now. But I do think we're 2 years away from, because then we're also talking about like Bilal extension. Like, you're starting to talk about some stuff where it's like, dang, if they could have gotten lucky sooner, could they have done some things differently? Or do they have to wind up flipping one of these guys in the future and extending the timeline a little farther because your best player is 19 years old and Bilal's in year 4? Like, those are I think the complicated questions this front office is going to have to eventually wrestle with. But you hope that they're really, really good and there's kind of either you keep the players because they're awesome, or you get incredible return because they're awesome. So good discussion there. Fun chat. If you want more on Ben's thoughts on that, check out the Locked On Wizards show. It's on YouTube and podcasts and all the places that you do that. Coming up at 5 o'clock, we will get to the Commanders uniform talk. They're going to launch alternate uniforms a week from now, and there was a big hint dropped in terms of what they will look like as well in the announcement. When we get back, though, Chris Eyre is an award-winning documentary filmmaker. His new film on Jim Thorpe is coming out on the History Channel a couple days from now, and we're going to discuss that film with him and why it was so important to have LeBron James as a part of it. Next on The Hoffman Show. All right, coming up at 5 o'clock, we will do more on the Commanders' new alternate uniforms that we are expecting to see, and you'll hear from Mayor Bowser on the Kevin Sheehan Show about RFK Stadium. But earlier today, was able to catch up with a very cool documentary filmmaker who's got a new project coming out, and here's my chat with Chris Eyre. Award-winning director Chris Eyre with us. The new documentary Jim Thorpe Lit by Lightning debuts July 7th on History Channel. It is co-produced, Chris, by LeBron James. And that's actually where I want to start because Jim Thorpe is widely considered the greatest athlete ever. And then I'm sure some folks hear that and they're like, come on, the evolution of the athlete, and we see like LeBron is 6'8", 200 and whatever pounds, and he's still doing what he's doing at the age of 40. That guy's the greatest athlete that we've ever seen. So what's it mean to have LeBron James work and co-sign, greenlight this project where you are telling the story of Jim Thorpe?
LeBron James is one of the greatest endorsers that we could ever have for Jim Thorpe Lit by Lightning, because LeBron James, one of the GOATs himself, is endorsing somebody that I love that happens to be a Native American. When you talk about, different times and places for athletics and sports and people, I think the diversity of what they do in athletics is important. So when you talk about Jim Thorpe, you recognize that not only did he excel in one sport, he excelled in multiple sports and the Olympics. So with the Olympics, you have the decathlon, which is 15 events, and the pentathlon, and he wins gold medals in each of those categories, the decathlon and the pentathlon in the same Olympics. So you look at it from that standpoint and you start to say, okay, wait a minute, this is kind of remarkable. And then you look at all the other facts of his story and the different sports, from basketball to professional baseball to professional football and multiple championships, his Olympic gold medals. I'm told he was a great championship ballroom dancer. And then he goes on and he's in 100 movies, including King Kong in the 30s. And he just had an epic life of the diversity of sports, and he excelled at all of it, and he was a champion. And the amalgamation of that and his records that stand and stood for so long make him the greatest athlete ever.
As a filmmaker and as a director, how do you tell a story that's 100 years old? There's not many, if any, folks around that saw Jim Thorpe do any of these things. Certainly, I guess there's some folks who may have seen some of the movies because those are timeless. But as an athlete, there's aren't people you can go interview. There's not film. So how do you tell this story that's 100 years old?
Well, that's a great question. That's the job. I mean, that is the job besides entertaining, is to storytell. And part of that is intellectual and research and great, people behind me that, that are able to bring the facts up and put them in front of us and write about them. But the other thing, and this is the secret sauce of it, the ingredient, is I have a tendency to watch old film and see people perform, but not only see them perform, but see them interview and really try to understand what's behind the person. And when I look at Jim Thorpe and I understand where he came from, which is humble beginnings in Oklahoma, he had lost early in his life, which was a twin brother at 9. He lost both of his parents by 11. He was carted off to boarding school at Haskell, and he ran away from boarding school multiple times, over 20 miles home. And they finally took him so far away to a boarding school in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, that he couldn't run away. And at that avenue, he somehow found sports. And I think if he wouldn't have had that avenue, it might have been a different story for Jim Thorpe. But what I see in that is that before $1 million endorsement deals and before $1 million fees for players, before the likes of social media, before the accolades of the internet, he was involved in these sports for a different reason. And I think that was because of the passion of where he'd come from, the anger, which he must have felt in a biased time, in a racist time, going to boarding schools, being disenfranchised, not only from his family, but his tribe and his whole community. And so he put it into something. And I think in later years, you can see these interviews with him, and he is still a humble servant of sports. And when I look at these interviews and these tapes and I watch somebody as a storyteller, that's what I'm able to grasp is who this person might have been. And then it's substantiated with the facts and the stories that we find, in the archives and through historians.
Chris Eyre, award-winning director, with us on the Hoffman Show. Lit by Lightning is the new documentary on History Channel, July 7th. You talked about another interview I watched that you did about this, the letter that he got from President Taft after his Olympic triumphs. And it's like, hey, way to represent America. You're amazing. You're the greatest athlete in the world. Obviously, he was called that directly by the King of Sweden, as is a famous story. But as you noted in this other interview, he's actually not an American citizen because he's a Native American. And at the time, that's what that meant. So what did Thorpe mean for, I was asked this broadly, what did Thorpe and his athletic success mean for civil rights in this country?
That's a good question. What it meant for civil rights was not anything, I think, that was regarded at the time. I think what it means for civil rights is something that we can reflect on now and say, wait a minute, the irony of the fact that he wasn't even a U.S. citizen, but celebrated as an American Olympian. He achieved gold medals, and Native Americans weren't regarded as U.S. citizens until 1924. There's a great irony in the fact that Taft wrote him this letter as a great American when he wasn't considered a U.S. citizen yet. And so I think that with regard to the civil rights of that, it went by people at the time. But I think what we learned from history is that it's about the perseverance of doing things for the right reasons. And the right reason for him was to compete and to be pure about his intention, which is he wanted to win and he wanted to play. And he survived so many great things in his life and overcame so many things. His inspiration is just putting one foot in front of the other, in which we all do, no matter in this country, how we got here, what we're doing. It's about what you do with what you have. And I think that Jim Thorpe embodies that humility in a way that he catapults me to a different time, and a time that I have real reverence for and respect for what he did. Without the money, without the accolades, he did it for the purity of excelling. And I think that's the inspiration here, which is you look at a life like that and you say, okay, that's a role model for what I need to do at times in my life.
Thorpe, the Olympian, Thorpe, the baseball player, there's so many different versions of him, but he is also one of the most consequential figures in NFL history. Chris, can you explain to an audience that like we spent more time on the NFL on this show than any other topic? So how significant, how would you try to describe the significance, the importance, the criticalness of Jim Thorpe to the NFL?
I think the criticalness of Jim Thorpe to the NFL is that it was the American Football League. He was the president, the very first president of the American Football League, that was designed so there could be a league in football. His Canton Bulldogs won 9 American Football League titles, and that later became the. So he was the first president of what would become the NFL. And the reason was because he was a worldwide household name. By the 1920s, his name had amassed to such a point that owners recognized that if they put Jim Thorpe as the president, the very first president of the American Football League, it would get the kind of press that it needed in order to generate a league that would be long-standing. and that became the NFL. So his significance was he was a touchstone of notoriety and fame that was the very first touchstone of what the NFL became. So he was the most important factor in the recognition of the NFL and the American Football League becoming what it is today.
Chris Eyre, director of the new film Jim Thorpe, Lit by Lightning, debuting July 7th on History Channel. Chris, best of luck with everything leading up to the launch. Thanks for making this film, and can't wait to watch it.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, and I hope people enjoy it.
What's up, kiddos? It's your boy Clinton Yates from ESPN. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980.
It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, streaming live on YouTube too at the Team 980. Just a few minutes, you'll hear from Mayor Bowser. She was on with Kevin Sheehan earlier in the week, today, yesterday, whatever day it was, talking about the stadium, the RFK deal, the latest. So get that. Glenn Kino, documentary filmmaker, later this hour as well. He produced an award-winning documentary called Hoops, Hopes, and Dreams that I got a chance to see through the DC Docs Film Festival that was in town a couple weeks ago. Glenn and I have been running circles around each other ever since, and we finally got a chance to chat today. So that's coming up at 5:30. We're hoping to catch Sonia Citron, Mystics star rookie, coming up at 6 o'clock. Kendra Andrews, ESPN, at 6:30. But right now, news of the day. I guess this is technically not my beat, but we don't have a guest, so I'm not going to play the sounder. So the Commanders put out a teaser on Instagram and their other social media platforms today saying new uniforms, and been told that is the alternates are coming. They are coming a week from today, so it's July 2nd. They will come on July 9th. And of course, there's been a lot of speculation about what they're going to be. Are they old? There's kind of been, talk, and Sheehan has been the guy on this because Kevin loves this stuff, as many of the older fans do, and I'll talk about that in a second as well. But it's gonna be like the old colors, and it's gonna look something. The alternates are not gonna be these black uniforms that maybe are kind of cool and obviously now have a different cachet because that's the ones they were wearing for the Hail Mary, but are going to be a throwback. And a lot of people were like, well, does this mean the logo? Does this mean, like, how throwbacky are we getting? Or is this just the old burgundy and the old gold? And what we got today was a hint that it's probably just going to be the colors. Because in the teaser photo, there is a W on the helmet. And I can reliably, I think, say that was an intentional choice, right? They could have released, if they wanted to stoke the flames for the week, they could have released a silhouette of nothing, just a full blackout. Alternates are coming, right? They didn't do that. They intentionally shaded out and got darker as it went down, revealing the W in silhouette form. So it's a black. There's no coloring to it. There's no hint of coloring to it. The new W logo that has become the actual team logo for the Commanders on the helmets. And I know there's some people that are going to be upset. But, Ben, we were talking about this before the show. And I think it's important to say, like, fans over 40, and especially fans over 50, care about the old logo a lot. And, look, I'm going to put out of this conversation anybody who is trying to have a political fight, and this is a vehicle for it. I'm not talking about the bad actors, okay? I'm talking purely from, like, true fans of the team who, if you are a fan who is above 40 and especially above 50, you have really fond memories of watching this team on TV or going to RFK Stadium, and the stadium was shaking and the team was wearing a certain uniform, and that look, that uniform, that logo, that color scheme, that everything has a real nostalgia to it of good feelings. If you are 40 years old or younger, especially if you're 35 or younger, you don't have any of that. And Ben, as someone who grew up here, who's 23 years old?
21.
You're 20. How? Damn, you graduated college early.
I'm just on the young side for my grade. My birthday's in August.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So almost 22. I don't know about you, but Ben's almost 22. That was a tight end significant other reference. There's another. That was like a joke inside of a joke. It was a Russian nesting doll of pop culture references.
That was good.
The point is, when you see that logo, is your first thought joy or pain?
Well, It's pain from a standpoint where I never saw the team be anything more than a dumpster fire than when they had that logo in my lifetime, outside of really 2 seasons. But of course, 2012, I know a lot of people my age love to reminisce on 2012. It makes me angry thinking about 2012.
Right.
Because what happened after that and the situation that RG me put us into. So that's why, like, I don't look favorably on a year like that. Everyone's like, oh, man, I always think back to 2012, how special it was. I don't care about 2012. What did they do after that?
It was awesome in the moment. And
They
then
did
it
nothing
was
after
really,
that.
really bad. And then 2015 happened. They win a division kind of early, and then they botched the Cousins thing 7 ways from Sunday on the contract. Like, that insignia, that logo, was a sign of incompetence. And I think this is the hard part for people who are older than me to understand, right? I sit right on the line at 35, and I realize that I did not grow up here. But, like, if your entire life that logo has been associated with mostly bumbling idiocy, and that bumbling idiocy is mostly about Daniel M. Snyder and him ruining the franchise, you don't have that like, your first impression is that. And for those of you that are older, and many of you, you're like, quit yelling at me. I understand. Like, I'm not an idiot. But, like, and I'm not trying to preach, but, like, if you don't have the first impression of the great memories that you had at RFK, and all you have is Snyder ruining that, and that's your first impression, that logo doesn't do anything for you. And so the farther removed we get from it, and especially now that I think more people associate this W, I realize that a lot of folks associate that with Snyder. I don't. Like, he was already kind of, to me, on the way out. Like, I think, when I think of Commanders, I now think of Jaden Daniels. I think of Josh Harris. I think of the new. And so I'm all for honoring the team's history, and for guys like Doc and B. Mitch and obviously Mark Rippon and all these guys that wore those old uniforms, to see Joe Theismann, to see these alternate uniforms and be like, that's still my team. That's still my franchise. And I'm all for that. It's just that the W, probably shaded in the old burgundy and gold, which would be kind of cool to see. I think that's the proper logo to put on the helmet.
You know what I think about the block W?
What?
Obviously, what does the W stand for? Win. And now that the team is starting to win, that was the most fun I had in my entire young life being a fan. I could feel proud to don the logo. I'm doing it right now.
Yeah, you literally have a Commander shirt on right now.
I'll tell you one thing. I don't love the block W. I think it's a pretty generic, weak-looking logo. I wish there was some more creativity to it. However, I don't give a damn what the logo is if they win 12 games a year. And I know for some reason that's not a concept that everybody can get behind, but that's just how I feel. And I think most people who are true fanatics, as you and I put it before the show, that's what we care about.
Yeah,
so,
people are irrational about it because fan is short for fanatic. And I get, like, sports should be a visceral, emotional experience. And, like, I can talk all the logic I want, and some people are going to feel how they feel because those feelings are that. Like, they are feelings. They are not rational. And that's fine. I'm not telling you how to feel. I'm telling you how I feel and how I think a lot of other people my age and younger feel. And I think this is a very nice, I genuinely think this is a nice job by the organization, assuming that what we think is coming, to both honor the past while also not bringing the organization backwards into stuff that it's correct to just at this point move on from.
can I admit something to you really quick?
Sure.
So before the new era was ushered in here with Adam Peters, Jaden Daniels, in a legit winning organization came into fruition, I was almost the proponent that maybe with new ownership, you just go a whole new direction. You completely change everything. You change the color scheme. You completely move away from the past, which is in the far, far past. But now that the organization has essentially revitalized itself, it's starting to win in the burgundy and gold again. I think obviously you stick with that, and now you're finding a way to mix in some of the old with the new without going back to the old.
And I think had Jaden and Adam and Dan not found the success this early, like if they struggled the first 5 years of Josh Harris's ownership, they were competent, but like they didn't have lightning in a bottle and didn't seem like they were set to be contenders for a while. I think there's a chance that some version of that would have happened. They would have rebranded. I think they feel like the brand is strong enough that enough people will be like, oh, Commanders, you mean Jaden Daniels? That that's why they eventually came out last year.
Commander tag.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, they made it into something.
It's
like
a real thing. The organization has bought into the idea of Commander.
And if that had not worked, it would have been a lot easier to move off of it. But it did, and now it means something, and that's how you build a brand, not because you pick a good name, even though, as I've said a million times, Commanders is because you can't really shorten it and all that kind of stuff. The Mandos, it's not particularly good. All right, when we get back, the latest on RFK, straight from Mayor Bowser, who talked to Kevin Sheehan earlier this week. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, as well as now on iHeartRadio and TuneIn Radio. Our podcast available, of course, wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify, which is where you can listen to Kevin Sheehan's interview, the Kevin Sheehan Show version of the podcast. Of course, I can't listen to Kevin Sheehan's interviews on our podcast feed. That would be weird. But on Sheehan's, which you can get in all the same places, you can check out his interview with Mayor Bowser about the latest on RFK Stadium, the most important bites of which we will play for you now. And the big question is, like, kind of where are we standing? And the highlight that you may have seen from this interview on social media, et cetera, is, hey, how concerned are you? And Mayor Bowser going out of 5, and she goes 4. And the question is kind of why. Like, everyone thinks this deal is going to get done, so what's at risk here? And that was where this interview started with Sheehan and Bowser, is like, what's the window of opportunity that we're looking at here? What is actually closing, and why are you so adamant this deal has to be done by July 15th, less than 2 weeks from now?
Well, this is how I live my life, Kevin, and it has been borne out in many, many experiences, is that sometimes in life, windows of opportunity open. And those people and those organizations who are successful figure out a way to get through the window, because you never know when it's going to close. You never know how fast it's going to close. In this case, I negotiated an exclusive agreement that runs through July 15th after many months of negotiation. And after kind of our own Hail Mary, late December of last year, where we got the site in D.C.'s control after decades and decades of being under the control of the National Park Service. So we've done a lot of work. We have the right partner, and the time is now.
So that's Mayor Bowser earlier today on that front. And if you need a refresher, the deal is currently with D.C. City Council. They have to approve it, and there are things that they don't like in it. So what is taking so long, and like, what does City Council want to change? That was another question to Mayor Bowser.
Well, they won't tell me. I mean, literally, they won't tell me. So I think they gave more to the Washington Post last week than they've told me or the team. And so that's what I'm talking about when I say let's all get in a room, hammer it out, and come up with if there are terms that make sense. Now, I will say, like, we didn't leave a lot. I don't think we left anything on the table. Like, we negotiated hard. We got $2.7 billion, a roofed stadium that's going to generate tons of economic activity. So I think we've always expected that the council members would negotiate a community benefits package with having spoken to the community and focused on getting D.C. residents employed, having small businesses have opportunities on the site, focus on youth sports. By the way, our deal includes building an indoor sportsplex that would be for D.C. And so I think that it's always been contemplated that that community benefits package would be negotiated at the council, at the council's process. And I'm looking forward to that being delivered at the same time.
So I think it's worth saying in defense of the council, and again, I'm not here to defend either side. I'm just here to try to present as much information as possible and contextualize some of these things that the people involved are saying. The question is, like, what's taking so long and what do they want changed? The council's response would be, we haven't been working at it that long and we still don't even have the full thing. Like, we haven't had a chance to read it. These deals are not little, like, one-sheet pamphlets. These are, probably 100 or 1,000-page documents where every detail is critical. Like, some detail miss could mean $100 million is spent unnecessarily or against the will of the council had they seen. Like, there are experts that have to go through this stuff, and it takes time. And what Mayor Bowser did, intentionally or unintentionally, I'm not going to ascribe whether this was like politically conniving or politically genius or politically reckless. Like, I'm not going to ascribe intention to it. But because she presented them on the timeline that she did, where she was like, okay, here's my budget months late, and this is a part of it. And the council was like, all right, we have to get the budget done. We're going to pull this deal out of it and be able to look at it deeper. They actually, it's not like it's the only thing they have to do. And thus, they haven't actually had a lot of time to go through it and see if they agree with her. Because they might get to the end of this deal and be like, we don't love that. We don't love that. But can we make these small tweaks? Okay, let's get it done. You guys, hey, Mayor Bowser, you did a great job of bargaining hard. Good work on behalf of the city. They also might not. But like, you can't know what you don't know. And it takes time to know things. And thus, I think it's a little, like, the premise of the question gives into Mayor Bowser's side of the story. And whether she's right or not, I don't know. But I do know the council is would say they disagree with that premise. Last but not least, like, what's your like actual concern here? When the rubber meets the road, do you think the Commanders will re-engage with the state of Maryland, or are you confident that this thing is going to get done and they'll figure something out?
The negotiation exclusivity runs through July 15th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you concerned that post-July 15th, the team will negotiate with, say, Maryland, as an example?
Listen, I think the team wants to be at RFK. We want them to be at RFK, but they do business. They don't do politics. And so I think that we have an agreement. I stand by our agreement, and we both stand side by side in our willingness to answer all the council's questions and get to a yes this summer. And that's important. Now, I've been around this long enough to know, and you know what we went through last year with our sports teams. And so that's why having a period of exclusivity was like, I insisted that be a part of the term sheet. And that's why I protected so vigorously, because I was that other jurisdiction. Okay. I was that other jurisdiction when I see a deal that wasn't solid. Our deal is solid. We have a signed term sheet. That wasn't the case in the Virginia deal, but I know how this can go, and so I think we all need to treat that period of exclusivity with the seriousness that it deserves.
I think that is the right approach to what she said at the end, to say we should approach it as such. But we should be aware. But she also didn't say no. She didn't say, yeah, I think they're going to go back to Maryland, because I don't think they will. I think what we're talking about is getting this done on the timeline they want. And the question that I still don't have an answer to is, do they want it because they want it, or do they want it because they need it to get construction done by the time they want to get open in 2030 and to realistically put in a bid for the 2031 Women's World Cup? Speaking of, the U.S. Women's National Team takes on Canada tonight at Audi Field. We'll touch on that a little bit later. But up next, Glenn Kino, who is a film director, directed one of my favorite short films I've watched in a long time, about Martin Luther King Jr., the basketball player. Yeah. Great chat with Glenn next on the Team 980. The Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming on YouTube too at the Team 980. Don't forget, we're also streaming now on iHeartRadio and TuneIn. But right now, it is our pleasure to welcome in Glenn Kano, who is a director, and he directed an absolutely beautiful short film called Hoops, Hopes, and Dreams. And it chronicles how basketball played an integral role in perhaps the two most significant African-American figures' lives of the last century in America, Martin Luther King Jr. and Barack Obama, starting with the story of Martin Luther King Jr. And that's where I want to start with you, Glenn. First of all, thanks so much for doing this. Thanks for making this film, and welcome to the show.
Of course, thank you for having me. Yeah, it was a pleasure and a amazing opportunity to make this project. So.
The way you did it was so cool. The way it was shot, the art, like the cartoon type style art that's in. I love the way you told the story. But there has to be a story to tell. When did the story of Martin Luther King Jr., the Hooper, kind of come across your desk?
So funny enough, so by trade, I'm a visual artist, and I have been working for years with the athlete Tommy Smith, who you might know in 1968 raised his hand in salute in the Olympic Games. And Tommy and I have had shows at multiple museums, and we actually made a film together called Withdrawn Arms. It's a really exciting journey, and we got to meet President Obama with Tommy and Colin Kaepernick, a bunch of people. And you know, my studio, my team, and myself, like when I engage a project, it's sort of like a deep immersion, holistic 360 sort of like collaboration, you know. And so one of the things that we did with Tommy, besides, you know, fulfill a lot of his goals and that had been fulfilled, was we helped start his foundation called the Tommy Smith Youth Initiative. And every year, Tommy and the team gives an award to an honoree, you know, at a celebratory dinner. And the foundation's great. They you know, give grants to young athletes and scholars. And a few years back, the grantee was, or the honoree was Ambassador Andrew Young. You know, and so I'm always at the gala. I sit in the corner room in the back. I'm like Asian dude in the back of the corner eating my food. And I've done multiple interviews like you have with people with Tommy. But funnily enough, whenever a politician is in conversation with Tommy, with people in front, somehow they feel compelled to talk about how great of an athlete they were, you know, even though Tommy has multiple world records. And so,
Right.
And Andrew Young's no exception. So I'm sitting there eating the food. Andrew gets the award. He's holding a little sculpture that I make. And he says, "Tommy, did I ever tell you the time that Dr. King and I played basketball?" And I just dropped my fork. I was like, oh my God, what is this story? It's incredible. I leaped over tables because Andrew Young was sort of in and out, and they were wheeling him out, you know, on his wheelchair to expedite his leaving. And I jumped in front of his chair, ambushed him on the way to the car, and I said, "You know, Ambassador Young, my name's Glenn Kano. You're holding an award that I made in your hand. I'm a collaborator with Tommy, and I would love to tell that story if I can in film." And he said, "I love Tommy. I love basketball. Yeah, let's do it." You know, and so he right then he said, "Let's tell the story." And we had not yet heard that, you know, before. There were small references in his book, and you know, on a podcast he had one mentioned, like, you know, 15 years ago, 12 years ago. And so we were excited to get the story. And you know, right then I'd called my producing partner, a fellow named Michael Latt, who was unfortunately killed in the process of making this film. But his mantra was "Lead with Love," and you know, Michael and I started working on the project, and it's been a gift every day. So.
Man, that's an awesome story. I can now imagine, having seen the film, like the cartoon, if you will. And I'm saying cartoon. Is there a better term that I should
Animation.
use?
Animation is animation.
Yeah. Sometimes my brain doesn't really work great with the words. I talk for 3 hours a day, Glenn. I don't know why they gave me a show. But yeah, the animation. I can imagine you just jumping over the table in the animation now.
Oh my God!
We obviously we need that. First of all, second of all, I happen to be reading a book that I literally just finished last night called "How Basketball Can Save the World." I don't know if
you know, they were not good, but when they were doing God's work, they got good, which was really funny, and that's something I'm not unfamiliar with, because you know, for Tommy Smith, when he won the 200 men's, you know, the last 25 meters of that race, you know, is spiritual. You know, if you look at that race, he was behind, he had an injured groin, and somehow, because his intention was to do the right thing, you know, God, the world conspired. And I didn't even grow up as a religious person, but you watching that film, you're like, I don't know. It looks like someone put an invisible string on Tommy's waist and pulls him across the finish line.
Right.
And you got to think like when if Dr. King and Ambassador Young show up at court asking for who's next, trying to defuse a situation that could possibly be explosive at any of the moments. I know that specifically for the film, they were talking about a very chaotic moment up in the sort of New England area, so they drove up from the south and up north, and these guys walk into an explosive environment trying to figure out how to defuse the situation. If they can't make their shots and are discredited, maybe the kids don't listen and maybe it doesn't work, and so I think it's remarkable in all these cases that the teams are actually good. So.
Yeah, no, the respect of like, I don't know, he's pretty good. Like maybe we should listen to him. Like anyone who's played, that's a real thing. I don't know whether that's a good thing, but it's definitely a real thing. And it certainly did a lot of good in that realm. Glenn Kino with us again. The film is Hoops, Hopes, and Dreams. The filmmaking question for you. Then I got two more. One about Chris Middleton, as he's now one of the members of the Washington Wizards here, and I want to then just end on a bigger thought. But just from a filmmaking perspective, one of my other favorite things beyond the animation and kind of the beauty of the shots is some of the archival footage playing on backboards instead of we've seen it on sheets, or it's just it's a filmmaking technique, I guess. But where did you get that idea, and how did you guys functionally do that to put all this amazing archival footage where it's airing on a backboard?
As an artistic choice, and alongside making the film, as I mentioned, I was in the process of building the monument for the new Intuit Dome, and the sculpture there, and you can look at it later if you Google it. And super stoked. There's a little mini 3D version on Google Maps if you go there too. But it is
really cool.
It's a 50-foot long clipper ship. But all the sails are made from backboards that were inspired from backboards I've seen around the world, And what I wanted to do is I want to build a metaphor of a gesture of progress with cultural progress and unity. Sort of, the basketball is the wind behind the sails of that, and so it's this beautiful. So I had all these mock-ups in the studio. I have a pretty decently big studio in LA, and I had all these basketball backboards in the studio. And as an artistic gesture, whenever I make a film or any type of project, I don't want to do it in the same way everyone else has done it before, and wanted to make it compelling, and but also, and so the idea of projecting, some of the archival footage, a very powerful moment, projecting it onto the basketball backboards, really resonated, I think, with the concept that we were trying to put forth in terms of the mixing of the two to imply a bigger moment. So
Chris Middleton's name is in the credits. He had a part in the project. I know he wasn't here long last season. He's going to be back with the Wizards this season. They love him for who he is and just the character of him, and obviously he's had a great career. What was Chris's involvement in the film, and what was it like to partner with him?
Chris and his sister Brittany were early supporters. I mean, when we had the idea, we had shot Ambassador Andrew Young, again, my sort of good friend and producer, so I get a little emotional. Michael Latt sort of connected us, via some other teams to me, and they were the first people to say, let's go make it, and jump in and sort of invest and sort of open doors for us and current player. Chris was one of my favorite players in the league, before. Imagine getting a text message that you jump on a call with, Brittany, and get that family support. So it was just really, really great, and early support like they gave to the project, are so meaningful, because when you're a filmmaker, you think you have a story, you got to convince people that it's going to be good. You got to convince people that's an important, those first few people that come in, to help, make the difference, all the difference in the world. And I'd say, Brittany and Chris were the first. So
that's awesome. And then last but not least, this is on some level a question for you about what I do and what we do. I try not to be this person, but the discourse around basketball right now, the way it's talked about on the talking head TV morning sports radio shows, etc., whether that's the NBA, especially the kind of divisive nature that the WNBA is often talked about, it seems to run counter to what basketball is at its best, which is a sport that unifies. And that, like, sense of that dissonance between what basketball clearly means to you based off this film, what it can do as seen in this film, and the way that folks in the media, again, I try not to do it, but I'm not going to exempt myself. Us in the media talk, especially at the professional level.
Yeah, I'll answer in two ways. One is as a young, short-ish Asian American person. I'm 5'9". I'm not the shortest Asian that I know, but I'm not the tallest. But I played basketball growing up. My whole life was in the Asian leagues and whatnot. Playing the sport's different than watching the sport. First of all, and being around the sport. And I think that what I believe is happening, in sports media, which is undeniable, is that a sporting event, all sporting events, all cultural events, right, are just material for storylines, right? And I remember years ago, will remain named, gossip tabloid media journalist came to my studio with some friends, and he explained how their tabloid gossipy brand was going to be built. And he's going to take soap opera narratives, and they're going to go look at real life. They're going to find couples, people that cultural events that kind of approximate those situations, and they're just going to apply them to novella stories, to every type of story, because the American public, has a yearning for this storytelling. Actors will happen in real life, and then things like. I think that we're now at the point where media and stories drive short form social media. They drive YouTube views, and so I think that what there's a yearning to apply dramatic storytelling these cultural events, and it does it and every sports media does it, and so, but I think that's separate entirely as an entertainment device than the actual cultural impact of sports. I think that the legions of young folks who play, high school, in school, they play through club, and they watch it at that level. I hope to believe, and I believe that the love for the sport and the actual human effect of being on a team, and being is an entirely different thing than what we see in sports media. I don't know if that makes any sense, but.
No, it makes a ton of sense, and it makes me even. I know this is probably not why you just said it, or you just pulled like some kind of cool mental ninja trick on me, which is to say, like, it makes me appreciate a film like this even more, because like it doesn't have to be that way. Like you could go tell a real, like, what story is better than the one that you told? Like something that's made up and pulled from a. Respect to the telenovela writers, or like this real life amazing story of how sport helped change and shape the world for good, and so. I just hope that our industry can do better. But that answer is clarifying and I think really good and really insightful. Glenn Kino with us here on the Hoffman Show. Hoops, Hopes, and Dreams. Again, debuted at Sundance. It's won some awards recently as well. It was at the DC Docs Film Festival last month, and I got a chance to watch it. It was awesome, Glenn. Thanks so much for joining us here in DC. All right, again, that. Hard to believe that was like 3 full years ago. Yesterday, our anniversary show. Off we go into year 4. Still try to be smart. Don't always deliver. It's the Hoffman Show. Now, not only with you on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app, but iHeartRadio and TuneIn. We're streaming live on YouTube, too, at the Team 980. And one way to be smart is to bring on really smart guests. Kendra Andrews from ESPN is just that. We're going to bring Kendra on now and hopefully catch Sonia Citron at 6:30. So, Kendra, first of all, welcome to our very silly radio show. Thank you for your flexibility as we try to catch Sony, and hope you're having a great week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you reported with your colleague Alexa Philippou yesterday that the Mystics have, in some form or fashion, fielded trade calls or the idea of dealing Aaliyah Edwards, their first draft pick last year, first round pick, 6th overall, and that could mean a lot of things. Teams could have called them. Mm-hmm. They could be putting out feelers. Like, what more can you tell us in detail about the status of Aaliyah Edwards, the Washington Mystics, and other teams' interest in her?
Yeah, I think the way to simply sum it up is just that they're ongoing and nothing is, we'll say imminent or going to happen right now, right away, but it's something that they're thinking about and having conversations with a handful of teams. We've seen this season that Aaliyah's minutes have dwindled after her being such an important role to the team last year. And part of that is because of the incredible rookie duo, Kiki Irifen, especially in the front court, same with Shakira. The Mystics just seem to, on their young stars that they have right now that aren't Aaliyah Edwards. And so you kind of have to look at this in a little bit of a long-term approach, because yes, they could 100% still keep her, and that is fine, and they wouldn't lose anything. But you also look at the fact that there are a lot of veterans who are set to be free agents next year. So, a team looking to add someone now, she's still going to be on her rookie scale contract. So that could be something that other teams are trying to land, knowing that someone will be back the following season. And the other thing that you look at is that there's going to be so many expansion drafts really over the next 5 years, but with 2 teams joining the league next year, some, teams are going to have to protect some players and leave other players unprotected. And if she isn't a part of your rotation, and if you don't foresee her being a part of the plan moving forward, see what you can get for a very young, talented player with a lot of upside versus losing her for nothing in 6 months from now. And so I think that all of these things are things that the Mystics are considering and weighing. But again, it's not a decision that they're rushing into or something that they feel that they have to absolutely do right now.
So a huge shaping factor of this is that expansion draft you just mentioned, Kendra. What do we know now about what the rules will be? How many players will be protected? Or do we not? And are GMs and execs otherwise around the league freaking out about that as we steamroll towards the trade deadline? What is it, about a month from now?
Yeah, I don't think that there's anything publicly that we know. Maybe GMs and execs and league or team officials have been informed a bit from the league of what their plan is, because as you said, like the trade deadline is quickly approaching, faster than I think anyone wants it to be. And so you do have to start looking past this year. And I think the expansion draft has put like different pressure on the way that teams operate now. And it's also going to be even more different, I think, than what we saw last, December for the Valkyries expansion draft, because there are 2 teams that are going to be in this draft versus just the one. So is the fact that both Portland and Toronto will be in this expansion draft adjust any of the rules that we saw from when Golden State was joining? Because when Golden State was expanding for their draft, it was protecting 6 players on each team. So we don't know if it's still going to be 6 players, if it's going to be less than that, because more players are going to have to be selected. But I'm sure it is, as you pointed out, something that GMs are trying to figure out and think about when they're navigating around the trade deadline.
I mean, it just feels utterly ridiculous that they wouldn't know. Like, how do you do any kind of long-term planning? And I think another thing too, the NWSL completely got rid of their expansion drafts, and they got rid of all drafts. Before they did, they allowed teams to trade. So if, say, the Mystics wanted to get Aaliyah to Toronto, where she's from, and say, hey, we know this is good for you, it's also good for us, and then no team could take, or Toronto couldn't take another player from them. Like, not understanding that seems crazy, but what are you going to do? Yell at the league office and hope they listen?
Maybe. I mean, maybe maybe those calls were made. It is an interesting point that you make about the trades. And again, like, I think the league it's easier now maybe for them to come up with rules, because when they did the expansion draft with Golden State, that was the first time in 16 years, right, that they had done it. And now you're doing it far more frequently, because we're going to have an expansion draft in 2025. We're going to have an expansion draft probably in 2027, 28, 29, right, with those other 3 expansion drafts coming. So it is now that they kind of have to set a precedent for what they want the continued expansion of the W to look like. So as much of a, example we can say of Golden State's expansion was, I think, again, with the continued amount of teams, growing, this next one, I think, is going to set a big precedent for what's to come for Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia. But even with those, again, it's different because those are all one team added 1 year. I think this is going to be interesting to see what happens when you have 2 teams coming in the same year. So we'll see what happens.
Right. And there's also the CBA negotiations. Do the players have something to say? Like, who knows? The shrug emoji currently could replace the WNBA logo.
It really is. Like, there's so many questions that need to be answered. I think the CBA negotiations, there's obviously such a large part of the conversation from fans of the W and viewers and stuff has been about pay, but there's so much more that is going into this. And one topic of conversation since the announcement of Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia coming are roster sizes. And I think that that's something that we could see, be discussed here. Is the 12 players still the right way to go? Is that, and then again, we circle back to our conversation about how to front offices then navigate that if you can add more roster spots. So I just think, as you said, like, the shrug emoji is very big right now in questions around just how the W is going to kind of navigate these next couple of months.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, and the calendar is moving quickly. Kendra Andrews with us here on the Hoffman Show. Of course, great reporter covering the WNBA and the NBA for ESPN. When we talk more specifically about this reporting that you and Alexa did on Aaliyah, like, how, she's had some really nice moments. Obviously, I think the best moment of her professional basketball career is how well she played at Unrivaled. How is Aaliyah Edwards viewed around the league right now? Is she's obviously, as you said, the reason she's not playing here is because Shakira's been unbelievable since she got back in the starting lineup, and Kiki's been incredible since day one, and there's just only so many minutes to go around. But how is Aaliyah Edwards viewed around the league right now?
Yeah, I mean, she's a young player with a lot of upside, and we really saw that last year, just how well she played. And she was on the unfortunate end of an injury at the start of the season. And as you mentioned, like, when one player goes down, it's the next player's opportunity to take that position. And that's exactly what Kiki and Shakira did. But, she's still extremely respected, and her stock is still high, right? Like, she hasn't played poorly at all. Her minutes just have been more restricted. And so I think looking around, the league, the way that the league looks at her is, again, she's not someone who has fallen off or gave her spot away. It's kind of those minutes were taken by her from 2 players that have just been playing incredibly. And the Mystics, they're under new management and they're under new coaching, and just with the direction that the team has gone this season. Also, it's like when the Mystics are, I think, outperforming their expectations. If things are working for you, you kind of have to stick with what's working for you, especially when it's better, a lot better than maybe what you or others expected you were going to be. But again, I think the league has a lot of respect for what Aaliyah can do. She's a young player. She's only in her second year. And that's what people want. They want young stars who can continue to hone in on their skills and have a lot more to grow. And that's what Aaliyah is.
And then last thing for you, Kendra, do you have any sense what the Mystics would be looking for in return? As you said, because of this CBA and everyone's a free agent and Aaliyah or any veteran is a free agent, all the players that have been drafted in the last couple of years on their rookie scaled contracts, so they become extraordinarily valuable. And the Mystics, as you said, also outperforming expectations perhaps. And so maybe they're a little more ready to be good now and compete and get some playoff experience this year. They already have a ton of draft assets in the future. Are they looking to accumulate even more? Are they looking for a veteran in return? Like, do you have any sense in these trade calls kind of how the other side of the conversation is going? Oh, you want our number 6 pick from last year? Well, what are you going to give us?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's always a question. I think the Mystics right now, like we talked about, like they are outperforming some expectations of what was thought to be the start of a rebuild. And with that, you have to clearly build on momentum, but also not get too ahead of yourself. And you have to play things realistically. And so is there a piece that can shoot them from where they are now to a real contender? I don't know if that's what their goal is necessarily going to be, but it's of course to say, hey, if the young bones of Kiki and Sonia and the emergence of Shakira Austin have gotten us this far, how can we just kind of keep staying competitive and at least maybe just be in that playoff picture? I think that's something that they have to navigate, and it's always interesting hearing. Whenever we talk about trades, like there is so many pieces that have to work out. And it really is, okay, what else are the other teams willing to give up to get a player? And I think that that's something that is easier said than done, to come up with perfect trade scenarios of, okay, well, maybe Aaliyah would fit in great with XYZ, but do they have the pieces that the Mystics are looking for? So I don't think the Mystics are going to rush this process of, oh my gosh, we have to contend right away, because is that realistic for them in the first year of this new era? But what can kind of just keep them growing and keep them on the right track?
For sure. And then I think it's also so hard because as we're watching with NBA free agency right now and so many of these moves, there's so much financial motivation, and we have no idea what the financial situation is going to be in the league next year. So, again, that shrug emoji just keeps coming up, Kendra, and eventually, hopefully, we get some answers. Kendra Andrews, great reporting as always. You can catch her, of course, on television on ESPN, talking about all this stuff, reporting at ESPN.com. Kendra, this was great, and hopefully we'll talk to you again sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Have a good one.
You too. That's Kendra Andrews with us here on The Hoffman Show. Sonia Citron in 15 minutes. We'll react to some of what Kendra just said and hit a few more stories next. But first, the rest of the latest in the world of women's sports, presented to you by Wawa. Chicken how you want it. Wawa with customizable roasted and crispy chicken sandwiches. All right, we're just a few minutes away from Mystics rookie superstar Sonia Citron coming back on the show. Talked to her at Media Day, one of my favorite chats from that day. Just had ESPN's Kendra Andrews on. And we decided basically, Ben, to replace the WNBA logo with the shrug emoji. And it's just, like, I don't want to just sit here and lazily bash the league because I think that, like, being a league commissioner is hard. Running a league is very hard. They're trying to grow a league in a very trying time under a lot of media scrutiny. A lot of the stuff that the W is trying to do now, the NBA got to do in the 1950s and 60s, and in some ways in the 80s. They're trying to combine all the growth that the NBA experienced in the 80s and 90s with Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird into like the decade of the 60s, because the league is barely 30, or is not even, I think, 30 years old. I think next year is the 30-year celebration. So it's a lot. It's hard. And you also don't know what you can't know, right? Like, if you have a CBA negotiation that's going to totally remake your rosters, how they're built, the distribution of money, you're doubling your league size, almost, or not doubling. You're going 150% of your league size. You're going from 12 to 18 in 5 years. Like, there's a lot of stuff you can't know, and I presume you can't do. That said, it feels, I will use the word feels, ridiculous that you have teams trying to make trades and consider trades and the value in trades or do general roster building planning when you literally don't know any of the rules, including the expansion draft. And I think the expansion draft is the one that kind of bugs me, because I guess that could be collectively bargained, but I also feel like the league probably dictates a lot of that unless it gets, pushed out entirely. I guess the more I talk it out, I'm glad I'm not just like, what's the WNBA doing? Because I feel like that's a lazy take, right? It's lazy to just be like, how could they not know? And it's like, I just laid out all the reasons you don't know. I guess what I'm just saying is this isn't a great point. This isn't a strong take in terms of putting the blame at someone's feet, which is the specialty of talking heads. But, like, this situation stinks if you are a WNBA GM between now and the deadline and say you are trying to decide whether to trade a young star because you think it is more valuable to get the return, because you are not, it's not that you don't like them. It's not that you do have anything other than you actually did too well at your job. You have a glut of players. You have people succeeding, and you're not going to be able to keep them all. That stinks.
I can only imagine the stress and pressure that these GMs are on because, as you mentioned, a really good point you brought up at the end of the interview there with Kendra was the NBA right now. All of these moves that are being made, we've seen so many GMs that have had to navigate the luxury tax and various different financial implications. The WNBA, they have no idea what kind of financial implications they'll have to deal with, which makes this 100 times harder.
Right, and so right now the WNBA is a hard cap league. It's like the NHL or what most people think of as a salary cap. This is the cap. You can't spend over it. You're literally not allowed. They will reject the contract or make you cut someone else. Like, you have to be cap compliant. That's not the case in the NBA. Like, you do have to follow rules, and there are penalties for going over, and there are roster building restrictions. You can't sign a player if you're over the cap unless they're your own player. By re-signing your own players and going over the cap, if you hit another threshold, you have to pay a luxury tax. So there's kind of a pot of money that goes into the league that owners have to pay, and it's at least, while there are not a whole lot of extra team building restrictions, it's fairly onerous on the owners. And if you repeatedly are in the tax, then there are extra things. Because there are exceptions, like you can bring a player that's not your own in on what's called like the mid-level exemption. And there's such thing as like a mid-level exception if you're over the cap, but there's a taxpayer mid-level, which is a different number if you're also in the tax. And then you have these first and second April. WNBA's got none of that. And so if you're a team and you're thinking, well, in a couple years, we're probably like Sony hit, Kiki hit, those players are, if they're this good, like, we're going to have to max them out. How are we going to pay Aaliyah Edwards too? We can't. It's hard capped. Well, what if it's not hard capped? And but the way Shakira is playing right now, if she plays like this for the rest of the season, like, she's going to be a max level player. So, like, you can't max everybody unless you're allowed to and you can go into the tax, but that's not currently a thing. And so it's not anybody's fault unless you want to say it's everybody's fault that they didn't get a deal done sooner. But I don't think the players or the league were ready to make a deal early because the league is changing so rapidly from a financial situation. And it just puts everybody in a bind. And there's not like a take here that ends with, and it's Kathy Engelbert's fault, or it's the Players Association's fault, or the Mystics are doing a bad job, or there's no one at fault. It's just a really bizarre purgatory situation that it's worth acknowledging. It's going to be really interesting to watch. And this Aaliyah Edwards, report from Kendra and Alexa Philippou at ESPN, it should be put in that context. All right, when we get back, Sonia Citron, all she's focused on is basketball, and that's what we're going to talk about with her. Except for, she was also quite the soccer player growing up. She was on a very popular soccer podcast, live show here in D.C. the other night. We'll ask her about that experience. We'll talk about her athletic background growing up and why she's been able to be so successful so early on in her WNBA career. Sonia Citron, next on The Hoffman Show. The Hoffman Show. We're on the team at 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn as well. Streaming on YouTube at the team 980. Our pleasure now to welcome back to the show Mystics guard Sonia Citron. Got a chance to talk to Sony, of course, at Mystics Media Day. She and the team have now touched down in Minneapolis, where they will take on the Lynx tomorrow night. Sony, welcome back to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. I'm very happy to have you on. Obviously excited to see y'all get back in action tomorrow night. And had a lot of fun, by the way, listening to the Men in Blazers show the other night that you and Georgia visited. For those that don't know, Sony and Georgia Amore were guests on the women's game, their live show for Men in Blazers, Sam Mewis, Raj Bennett, all them ahead of the U.S. women's national team being here in D.C. tonight. Sony, when whoever it was that asked you, hey, you want to do a live show in front of like 1,000 people with Georgia to talk about soccer? What was your response, and how much fun was it to ultimately do it?
So it's actually funny. They asked Georgia, and then Georgia is the one that asked me, and was like, hey, they were curious if like you would be down to do it as well. And I was like, sure, why not? Like I love soccer, and I was also under the impression that it was a podcast. So I'm thinking like, she was like, you want to do this podcast? And I was like, yeah, like it would be fun, you know, I'm thinking like 4 people in a room, me, Georgia, you know, the other people, some like a microphone, like you think, you know, when you think
right.
of podcast. And then the day of, I was like, oh, so I knew Kiki was coming to just like support us. And I was like, so is it just going to be Kiki, or like will there be other people there? Like I'm thinking Kiki will just be on the couch like listening to it in real time. And Georgia was like, oh no, like there'll be a crowd. And I was like, okay. And now like in my head I'm thinking like what kind of crowd, you know what I mean? Like,
right, like what did I just sign up for?
What kind of crowd is this going to be? Like whatever. And then I get there and Georgia finally tells me like, oh yeah, like it's a live podcast since they're here. So it's going to be live. It's going to be in front of people. And then like the person that was running the show, or like managing or directing the show was like, oh yeah, like it's a great crowd. You guys are going to love it. There's like 600 people here. And I was like, what? I was like, oh my goodness, this cannot be real. But that's just who I am. But it was super fun, super cool. A very, very cool experience. Again, like I've always loved soccer. I still do. So just to be able to talk to them and do it with Georgia, like it was really fun. So yes, I was not like, that's not what I signed up for, but I ended up enjoying it. So
I love that. That's great. And specifically, like Men in Blazers is a very specific show. And Roger Bennett, who has been on the show before, and I've been lucky to know a little bit over the years. He's a very funny man. So like, not only do you not know that you are going in front of a crowd of 600, when you are hearing Raj and Sam Mewis like do their, for lack of a better word, monologue, and like Raj is cracking all these jokes, like how much worse is the "what did I get myself into" feeling?
It wasn't too bad because we had talked to him before. Like he came before the show even started and just gave us a rundown of like what we would be talking about, what he would be asking us. And obviously when I met him, like he was awesome, you know, like you said, really funny, outgoing, just made us feel both like really comfortable. And he like loved the fact that I used to play soccer, and not only that, but it was like my number one sport. So like it was cool to talk to him about that. But yeah, we had talked to him before, so that didn't really make it worse. If anything, it made it better because I knew that he would keep it light and funny, you know, and if it was ever awkward, like he would probably crack a joke and help me out, you know, but
he's definitely good for that.
Yes.
Yeah. And by the way, if you ever want to make him feel uncomfortable, give him a compliment. He's very English and hates it so much. Oh my God. He is known, Sony, for doing these very incredibly well-written complimentary introductions when he has guests on. And I basically turned the tables on and did that to him. He was squirming in his chair. He hated it so much. Yeah, so if you want to make Roger Bennett uncomfortable, just say something nice about him. He'll hate it. Sonia Citron's with us here on the Hoffman Show. So you've talked about it more extensively on the show, but you've mentioned it here that soccer was your number one sport growing up. How do you think that shaped you, like playing that sport shaped you as a basketball player?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me this question, and I feel like I honestly am not sure, but I know that it did help me for sure. Like, I feel like, well, one, like when I was playing soccer, it helped me be in the best shape of my life. So that helped me with basketball, but obviously, I don't play soccer anymore, so that doesn't still help me. But I think I would like to say that it like has helped me kind of learn how to like move on the basketball court.
That makes
I don't
sense.
know if that's true, but
Well,
I'm just gonna go with it.
Yeah,
And
well,
say,
I know Steve
like,
Nash used to talk about this a lot because he played soccer a lot growing up in Canada, and he talked about the movement, and the big thing for him was like the spatial awareness, like how he
Yeah.
was able to pass. He attributed back to soccer. I don't know if that rings true for you or not.
Yeah, I would say like I feel like I love to cut and I time my cuts pretty well. Like let's say behind the defense or just knowing kind of when to cut. And I feel like that is something that you definitely do in soccer. Like
Yeah.
know when to make a run, when to like just like you said, like kind of this spacing and that awareness. So I would definitely say that it helped me with that. Like probably like I unknowingly like got that from basketball because I never really thought about it until like people like you asked me, and I'm like, oh, let me think about that actually.
Yeah, no, it definitely there's something there. What we'll figure it out over the years, but there's definitely
Yeah.
something there. Two other things I wanted to ask you about, kind of adjacent to that or to the show the other night. There was a comment that Georgia made when talking about the crowd, and you guys went to the Spirit game and have seen how rowdy things get at Audi Field. Obviously, folks coming out to Care First Arena, the crowds are great there, and she talked about the culture of sports in DC and specifically of women's sports in DC and how that like really affects you guys as players. She got to talk about that on that show. I'd love for you to talk about that on this show. What did you make of kind of that concept of culture and how it can feed off of the crowds and how those crowds even cross sports over to what the Spirit do at Audi Field?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Georgia said, it's just an amazing atmosphere, and she talked about like culture, and I think that's super, super important, like not just like being, oh, it's the Mystics, and then, far away, it's the Spirit, like having that culture and that community piece, I think is huge. And like you said, like the fans, I said this on the show, but the fans like make or break your experience. I fully believe that. And I think we saw that during COVID when you weren't allowed to have anybody in the stands. Like they really make the experience special and make it what it is. Like, yes, we do the playing, but they make the atmosphere like an amazing place to play in. So I think just having that crossover and having fans that like to watch basketball, like to watch soccer, or just like to support the DC community as a whole, I just think it's really, really important and something that's super special. And then even having that that connection between sports, athlete to athlete, I think we all can understand just being professional athletes, like what it takes and just how hard it is. So kind of having that connection, that support from your peers and just fellow DC athletes, I think it's really, really cool.
You guys were there the other night with Tara McKeown. Georgia told the story of how Croy Bethune sent her a text after she had her injury. Are there any of your peers, whether it's Spirit or any of the players on the Wizards or anybody else in town that you've really enjoyed connecting with since you've been here?
Honestly, not really. Besides, I would say just like the Wizards, just because we're in the same practice facility.
Right.
So we get to we see them a lot, and they're always working out just like we are. So we kind of have that similar grinds. But I think everything has been so hectic lately. But I do want to go to more Spirit games, go to more like baseball games, hockey games, and like build those relationships. But so far,
you've been a little busy.
Been able to do that too much, but it's definitely on the radar.
Yeah, for sure. You got done playing at Notre Dame. You get drafted. You're here. You're doing media days, and next thing you know, here we are talking again. What are we? 17 games into the season already. It's crazy how fast it goes. And I'll wrap up with this. We actually talk a little basketball with you, Sony. Imagine that.
Oh wow!
I know. We're only 10 minutes into the interview. I think it was about time. I think people will watch you play and be like, oh my gosh, she started so well. It looks effortless. But being a rookie in the league and knowing how hard you work, how introspective you are, I'm sure there has been a learning curve, even if it's been hard to see from the outside. So especially with the run you've had, 20 points in 3 of your last 4 games, the rebounding numbers have been outstanding as well. What are some things that you're starting to pick up on, and what's it been like to experience these first 17 games and the improvement that you've made during them here in your rookie season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been amazing. It's been really fun. I think one of the funnest things about it is that I get to learn every game, you know. And like you said, there's definitely like a huge learning curve, and I have my teammates, my coaches, like just the whole staff to thank for helping me through all of it. And yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot that goes into it. Like every single day with my position coach, we will watch film, really break it down, try to understand where I can get better, and then do like at least 20, 30 minutes of just nothing rigorous on the body just because of how often we play, but just little things that it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you do it every single day, like it really builds up. And like he'll tell me, and I don't even realize it, but he'll tell me like, oh, I see you doing something that we've worked on. And just hearing that from him is really, really cool because, again, it's something that I don't even realize I'm doing, but just, I mean, like you said, 17 games in, like he's seen progress, and it's cool to hear that because we put the work in. But I would say I feel like the biggest thing or things that I am trying to get better at and doing so is like it's kind of the mental aspect of it. You don't realize how big the little things are. So like coming off of screens tighter or using your body to create space, like things like that, because everybody is bigger, stronger, taller, faster. Like there's little things that really just help. And I feel like those are the things that I've been able to improve on and will try to like continue to do so. And that applies to like things like getting open, you know, when they top block you or when they're just like little things that just, again, don't seem like a lot, but like are super important.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. The margins are so small at the top level, and you know, you just if you know what you're looking for, you can see it, and it's been really fun to watch. Last question here for Sonia Citron, Mystics rookie, and again, Mystics links tomorrow night. You can hear it here on the Team 980. Shakira Austin, the last couple of weeks since she really got healthy, got back in the starting lineup. The minutes restriction came off, and it was like she was just let out of a cage. You obviously knew about Shakira, you know, as a player. I'm sure watching her, she's had fits and starts of this throughout her W career. But to see this version of Kira and to like see it every day, what's it like to see someone playing this sport at this level, at that level?
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. I think we all knew Kira had it in her. And just to see her be able to do that and consistently do it and just keep getting better and really see her growth. I mean, it's been awesome. Like I'm so proud of her, and we all knew she was that good, you know, but again, just seeing it happen in real time. And even like day to day, you just see her getting better. Like she's becoming like not only scoring and rebounding, but becoming a playmaker, getting assists, getting steals, like just touches every, facet of the game, and has truly just been such a difference maker. You know, like you said, came into the starting lineup, has been such a force to deal with in the paint. But yeah, and I see every day how hard she works. So again, just to see that and see her succeed and do well. I mean, it's as a teammate, like it's awesome. It's amazing. I love seeing that, and I know she's only going to get better.
And if only she was any fun to be around. She's just like such a shy, quiet person, and you know,
yeah,
never lets
so
anybody
shy,
know
just
about.
like me.
Yeah, basically the same. Sonia Citron with us here on the Hoffman Show. Sony, great to chat as always. We'll do it again later this season. Best of luck tomorrow night and over the weekend, and we'll chat soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Sonia Citron, everybody, with us here on the Hoffman Show. Again, it's Lynx Mystics from Minnesota tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. When we get back, we wrap up the show with real things, real people said, in a real microphone. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. What a great chat with Sonia Citron. She tries to sell herself as like she's super shy, and like she is. She's definitely not like gonna look to do a million interviews, and she's not putting herself out there a ton. I think Sony's more comfortable in a pair of sweats than she is like putting on a tunnel fit or whatever. We talked about that in our what's it called? Our media day interview, because she had that draft fit, and everyone was like, "Whoa, who is this Sonia Citron?" She's like, "Yeah, don't expect that very often." But man, when she decides to talk, she is great. The story she told about doing that show, Ben, if we had that story from another show, we'd probably play it in Real Things Real People said in real microphones. But we don't have to because she just said it on our show, you know? It's kind of how that goes.
That's right.
So if you missed the chat with Sonia Citron, our chat with Kendra Andrews, or any of the rest of the show today, check it out wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or, of course, the free Odyssey app. We're streaming live not only on the Odyssey app, but now on iHeartRadio and TuneIn as well. All right, without further ado, tomorrow on the show, never read the comments because it's a Thursday, so 5:30 tomorrow. We're doing that. There's also a piece in The Athletic that came out earlier this week on AI in the NFL. Like, what is the future of AI in the NFL? And we're going to talk to the guy who wrote it tomorrow on the show as well. Do a little Mystics Links preview. And then we're getting ready for July 4th. So that's it. Ben, do you have any big plans for July 4th?
Nope, I'll be in here for like 8 hours.
Oh, nice. I'm going to go see Beyonce, so you have fun
Wow,
with that.
we're on the opposite end of 4th of July plans. I'll say that, but that sounds really fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty pumped about it. Cowboy Carter coming to Landover. Wifey and I are going to be there, and I'm excited about it. So that's what I'm doing Friday instead of this show. Advantage me. All right, it's time for Real Things.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, this was an awesome quote from Carter Bryant. Carter Bryant is the newest draftee to the San Antonio Spurs, or one of them. Obviously, Dylan Harper, the number 2 pick. He was picked later on in the first round. And could you imagine just walking into your new team and you walk into a workout and these are the dudes in the gym?
Everything happened so fast. I think the thing that really put me in a whirlwind is when I walked into a breakfast, Manu was there. And then I saw Timmy D and I saw Coach Popovich. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like that's my whole childhood just standing right in front of me. Like these dudes know my name, like they're greeting me, telling me I'm a hell of a player and all these things. It's like this is crazy. Like this is my childhood right in front of me.
Ben, here would be my question. Who is that for you? Like if you walk into, especially like I'm old and jaded now. I'm 35, right? You're 20, what would you say? You're 21 years old. You turn 22 soon.
Yeah.
So you're still young enough that like you got idols in this business.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the room of like sports broadcasters that you walk into that you're like, holy crap?
Probably if I walked into like any of the TNT play-by-play guys like Brian Anderson or Ian Eagle, something like that.
I'll have to let Ian know. He'll be thrilled.
Noah's closer to my age.
Noah is closer to your age. No,
so maybe I'd actually know him at some point.
Yeah, no, this is a true story. I once slept on Noah Eagle's couch.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been lucky enough to know Ian for a long time, and so I've known Noah since Noah was like coming out of high school, basically, and was on a trip back to Syracuse much earlier in my career where I had very little money. And so I knew Noah, and Noah's roommate at Syracuse was Drew Carter, who's the play-by-play voice of the Celtics.
Yeah, I've met him a couple times as well because his mom worked as the concessions merch person for the Cape Cod team I did play-by-play for.
There you go.
Amanda Carter.
It's a small world.
They got a great corgi named Thor.
Shout out to Thor and Amanda and Drew. But I stayed on Drew and Noah's couch on a trip back to Syracuse. And that story horrified Ian. Absolutely. He's like, when I walked in that house, he told the story on our show. He's like, my wife cried when she walked into that house. Anyway, that's our show. We'll see you tomorrow for one more before the holiday.